On many websites, we see this after using it for a certain amount of time, or even the first time we come to it. There's a lot of times there's this like kind of notification bar that comes up at the very top where you can usually close out of it and stuff like that. But it usually tells us some type of sale or, hey, get this information, or like us, share us on Twitter, whatever, something like that. It was often you'll see that with, especially e-commerce sites, you'll see that a lot there. You'll see it in blogs a lot. So in this one, we're actually going to put in the ability for us to have a message like that. We're going to put in our template first, and then we will actually implement it into Django in a following video. All right, so it's really straightforward to do, but I'm going to use the Bootstrap documentation, so getbootstrap.com. And as I've probably said before, this documentation does change every once in a while, but this is what we're going to be doing is an example of a Bootstrap alert. And it's essentially going to look like one of these, but it's going to take the full area from left to right all the way across. There are alerts that you can do where it's a little bit smaller, which is something we will also go into at some point. But for now, we're just going to be doing that full across top bar alert. And to do that, you can go to getbootstrap.com/components #alerts, and it will bring you right here. And we can just copy that first alert in. Another thing that you could do is just go into your template tag. So I'm going to go to the base.html tag, right? And I'm going to put it right above the body tag, right below the body tag, the first opening body tag. And we're going to do div class equals to alert and alert success. So this is the class that we're going to be using. And we're going to say role equals to alert. And we put in our div and we say h3 will just say hello there. Now if we look at this and compare it to these, it's the exact same thing. I just wrote it out so you can see it. Save it, and let's go ahead and look back into our project and do a nice little refresh here, and we see hello there, and now we've got this green thing on the top. There is a little bit of a space here, which is something I'll probably want to get rid of. So let's actually go ahead and inspect the element for this alert. And we see that it's actually inspecting for the H3 tag. When we just click up one, we see it's the alert tag. And right on the bottom, that orange that you see, there's green, there's blue in the middle, green on the outside, and then orange on the bottom. That is definitely going to represent the margin for this. So if we go into the styles, we scroll down a little bit, and we see that .alert has a margin padding bottom of 20 pixels. Let's actually just get rid of that because we don't really want any spacing between our navigation bar, which is this, and our top alert. So we're going to get rid of that. And then also another thing, it's very subtle. It's a little hard to see, but there's a little bit of a rounded corner all the way around. I don't actually want that. So I'm going to get rid of that too, and that comes from the border radius, also in the alert class. And then we can also get rid of a border if we want, but I'm going to keep that border. I think it looks nice. It separates the content pretty well. And then padding, we could change if we wanted to get rid of padding, we could. But I'm really just going to get rid of margin bottom, and border radius. But I'm going to add a new class on our own and call it alert top message. I'm just giving it this long alert top message because I'm fairly positive that this would not be a class that will ever be added. But it might, so there might be a possibility that Bootstrap's updated and they, for some reason, have a class called alert top message. I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does, then you might want to refer to the documentation on that. But for us, it's not there yet, so we don't have to worry about it at this time. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And in my style sheet, which I have right here, we've got this background image thumb. I'm going to put this right actually above everything. I'm going to do .alert top message, and we're going to get rid of the margin bottom. So margin bottom, margin dash bottom is 0 pixels. And then we also want to get rid of the border radius. So just border dash radius is also 0 pixels. Save that. Do a refresh in here. And notice that our top alert has changed, and it's looking a little bit better. It's something that we actually wanted to see, which is that margin being gone on the bottom, and then also the padding or the radius being gone as well. So the next thing I want to do is actually bring this content right in the middle for a couple things. So it's going to be within the same length here. So if it's off to the left like it is right here, we want it to be aligned to CFE e-commerce. So to do that, it's fairly straightforward. We just add a container in it, so div class of container, just like what we have with all of our other stuff. So that div class of container would be right there, and we can move this stuff in. I'm just going to tab it in a little bit. And if I refresh, it now is nice and aligned to CFE e-commerce. Now, of course, you might not want it to actually be there. You might want it to be in the exact center. And to do that, we could just go to top alert message, that the CSS that we just created, and then just do text align center and refresh. That's going to move everything into the center, which is cool. All right, so now we have it in the center. We have this message, but we're missing a few things. Number one, we're missing the ability to actually close it. Well, why isn't there ability to close it? Well, that's because we haven't added it. So if we go back into components and we scroll down a little bit, we see this section called dismissible alerts. And build any alert by build on any alert by adding an optional class, which is alert-dismissible, and the actual button to dismiss it. So we add this the alert dismissible, and then we just need to add this X button. So if we scroll down a little bit more, we see that all this stuff. And here's the button right here. So we can just go ahead and grab this whole thing from button all the way to button, copy that, and put it in the container, save it, go back into our store, do a little refresh. Notice it comes within the container, so it's aligned to the side of the actual site itself here. We could also put it in the far corner, so if we actually wanted it in the far corner, I could close this out or cut it out of there, put it outside of that container, and then it would actually go in that far corner. So that's kind of up to you on how you want to actually close it out. I believe the convention for a lot of sites is actually to put it in this far corner over here, but if we click on it, we notice that it actually goes away. If I do a refresh, it of course comes back, but if I click on it, it goes away, and that's kind of the actual thing that we want to see. We actually want them to see, hey, like we have a brand new type of message, but they should be able to close it out, and ideally close it out for good. But for now, this is what we'll leave it as. What we need to do here going forward is creating something smart for Django to actually handle these messages, right? So they shouldn't be hard-coded in HTML like this. They should actually be handling messages somehow. And then we also want to have other messages that aren't just promotional. So this top part might just be promotional messages. And then below here, we might want to have messages that are not promotional, but they are important for the site. So like, let's say, for instance, I added this product to the cart. Maybe we want to have a message up here saying successfully added to cart instead of redirecting to the cart, which is something that we can talk about too. So since we've had that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and copy this alert, this exact thing, copy it, and put it inside of this container here. So right inside this container, put it in there, and do a refresh. Now we've got this hello there. Well, there's a few things about this particular one that we don't want to have, and that's the alert top message. So now if I refresh, I got that padding there. And then also we might not end up using like an H3 tag. We might use a paragraph tag or an H5 tag, something a little bit smaller. Let's just put a paragraph tag in here for now. And we also do not need this container anymore. So paragraph hello there. So now this is probably a more appropriate message for other types of things, or at least the size of it. Still dismissible, meaning that we can still close it out, and it'll still look pretty solid once those are actually closed. And perhaps we don't want them both at the same time, or we don't want them to have the same color and stuff like that. Those are options that we can change later. But if you wanted to do it now, I'm going to just go ahead and do it and go into at least the top message. We'll change this color. And we have alert success here. So I'm going to say alert dash, take out alert success and do a refresh in here. Now we see that there's just a white background. So if I click on it, it still goes away. But the alert is there. So now with our alert dismiss or alert top message, we could just add a background color to it. So let's say background color. And I'm going to use, let's say, first I'll just do 000. It's going to be black. So if we inspect this element, we can change this color on however we'd like. So this might be something that you want to have it like, I don't know, like a gray color or something that pops a little bit more, like an orange, something like that, where they'll definitely see it. But this is where you kind of want to make a decision where it's not going to be too over the top. And let's go ahead and do like a light gray color here. So db all the way down. So I'm going to paste that in here. Do a refresh. So another thing I want to see here is the padding, how it's padded and all that. So if I see this, we've got this green. That green represents the padding. Do we really want that much padding? Do we want this top alert to be that big? You possibly might, and you also might not. So in alert, we have padding of 15. You might want the alert to be a little bit closer to that size, at least for this alert. Not necessarily the bottom alert, because that looks funny, but the top alert, it might be better to have low padding. Now, it would change, the actual size of it would change if we weren't using an H3 tag, right? So if we did not have these in here, the size of it's going to change too. But I want to make sure that there's actually no padding and we just kind of work with it as it is. And then we have this X way up in the corner here because we might not want to make it super easy for them to close because it might be something we want them to do. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of that padding. Go back up to this alert message and just do padding being 0 pixels. Refresh, and there we go. So now it's in here and it says 0 pixels. So that actually just created a little bit of an issue for us where it's moving our X over to the side. So let's actually get rid of that and keep it with the normal padding. And instead, we will just change how our text is rendered. So now we see that there's margin here for the H3 on the top and bottom. So instead of changing the actual padding within the alert, we can just do alert, top message, and H3. And we'll just say margin. So top and bottom, we'll just say it's 0. And then there we go. So that changed it a little bit. And now the padding or the margin on top and bottom don't actually affect the way it's all being rendered. And it looks pretty solid. Okay, so now we've got this text here. And it's a good call out. We can close it. We can close the other message and all that. So in the next one, we're actually going to set it up where you can have these messages show up based on actions or something that we want to happen within Django. All right, so we'll see you in the next one.